This is the 5.4 Day 2 mini lesson. Today I'm going to teach you how to solve real-world problems involving operations with rational numbers, because not all problems are going to just involve integers. This actually is not going to be the real-world portion, but this is going to be just making sure that we're good at using rational numbers and following our order of operations. So when I look at my 5.4 boxes and bullets, I have -6 1/4 minus -3 1/2 and then times x. So I need to follow order of operations. So they want me to evaluate for x equals -10. That means I'm going to substitute in. So the first thing I do is substitute for the variable. So I'm going to rewrite everything else. 6 1/4 minus -3 1/2 and then times -10. So in order of operations, next it tells me follow order of operations. I have to make a decision if I subtract or if I multiply. We always multiply first, so I'm going to work on just getting this answer. So I already know my rules for multiplication, that when I multiply a negative times a negative, I get a positive. So I'm going to put that piece of the answer right over here, and I'm going to leave that box empty because I know my answer is positive. Now I know when I multiply two negatives, I really just need to multiply their absolute values. So I'm multiplying 3 1/2 times 10. So now how do I do that? I need to make this improper. So I get 7/2 times 10 over 1. And I can simplify. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 10 5 times. When I multiply straight across, I get 35 over 1, which is 35. So this answer here gives me 35. So I'm going to go back. I have -6 1/4 minus, and now the solution to all of this was 35. So I know that when I have a subtraction problem, I can rewrite it into an equivalent addition problem by adding the inverse. So now I have a negative plus a negative, so I'm going to give myself a solution box again. I know I take the sign of the larger absolute value, so my answer is going to be negative. When I have a negative plus a negative, the signs are the same. I find the sum. So I'm going to be adding their absolute values. And I like to put the larger absolute value on the top. So 35 plus 6 1/4. Now remember, I'm adding, I'm not subtracting. So if I have nothing, I can add a fourth to it and I get a fourth. And 35 plus 6 gives me 41. I have to remember to put it back in this box so that I get the right sign. So my answer should be -41 1/4. Okay, let's try a slightly different problem. Only difference is this piece right here is not negative, and I'm going to substitute x as 5. So step 1 tells me substitute for the variable, -6 1/4 minus 3 1/2 times 5. So again, with order of operations, I need to decide, do I subtract first or do I multiply first? I need to multiply first, so I'm going to get this answer. So a positive times a positive, I know is going to be a positive answer. So I need to now just multiply these two. So 3 1/2 times 5. Make this improper. I get 7/2 times 5 over 1. There's nowhere for me to simplify, so I multiply straight across. I get 35/2. Now I want to turn it back to mixed. 2 goes into 35 14 times, or I'm sorry, 17 times, and there'd be 1 left over. So I get 17 1/2. Now that's just the solution to this. I'm going to rewrite -6 1/4 minus, and instead of this, I got 17 1/2. Now I know that whenever I have a subtraction problem, I can turn it into an equivalent addition problem by adding the inverse. So now I have a negative plus a negative. So I know that a negative plus a negative, I take the sign of the greater absolute value. I know that when my signs are the same, I find the sum. So I again like to just put the bigger number on the top. So I'm finding the sum of their absolute values, 17 1/2 plus 6 1/4. I need to make a common denominator, so that's times 2. So 2/4 plus 1/4 is 3/4. 17 plus 6 is 23. But I have to remember to put it in my box here so I get the right side. So I get negative 23 and 3/4.